Are you concerned about your business's financial future? Are you looking at your tax obligations and wondering how you can improve your situation? Well, today we're joined by Brett Anforth from HY Accounting. Now, Brett, I've spoken to two of your clients. In one case, you were able to divert a situation that could have cost over $1 million. In another situation, for Sales HQ, a recruitment sales company, you have saved them over the past 2 years $62,000 in tax. If someone's watching this interview and they're looking for tips and techniques on how to improve the financial future for their business, where do they start?
The starting point is honestly clearly understanding the P&L and balance sheet of your business. Um, in both of those client situations, we get to the end of the March quarter accounting period, do the BAS, analyze the numbers, and then stop and have a meeting with the clients to talk about opportunities where they can direct some funds, spend money on certain aspects to allow them to change what the tax position is going to be before 30 June. Um, After 30 June, they can't take actions to change that position. But before 30 June, they got the opportunity to do some things that would allow that tax position to be affected.
Now, in the case of Adam McDougall, the co-founder of Sales HQ, he mentioned the fact that when he changed over to HY Accounting, he was amazed at your proactive approach. He said it wasn't just having an accountant you sat down with once a year and looked at the tax numbers. It was like having a coach. Why do you think this proactive approach is incredibly important in today's market?
Um, Adam has a pretty fair understanding of his business's accounts, but um, we question the numbers more deeply. We meet with him at least on a quarterly basis. We go through his results, talk about what the good, the bad, and the ugly was in that particular period, set action points for him to improve further in the next quarter, hold him accountable for those actions, and make sure that when we come back the next quarter to chat, that the things that he said that he was going to undertake to help with his growth, he had executed and followed through on the things that we had discussed and as were necessary to continue the growth of his business.
Now, we're at a time where we're moving into a recession. There is a lot of pressure on business. Sales are harder to achieve. But at the same time, we have tax obligations. How do you make it much easier? Because the tax office can be known to be difficult. How do you guys at HY Accounting make it easier for people to work with the tax office?
We jump in between the business and the tax office in our role as tax agent. So any correspondence that's required with the tax aid office, we would take responsibility for that correspondence. And coming into these difficult times, one main example of where we would interject ourselves between the business client and the tax office is where there's debt to be paid. Negotiating with the tax office a plan, keeping them informed as to where the client's at, how much they can afford to pay back at a regular basis, and when that debt will be paid off in full is really critical to get the answers that you want from the tax office and not have them come knocking on the door and saying, well, you haven't paid me, we're going to take some serious action against you. So being on the front foot in that regard is very important.
So when people are watching this interview, they're comparing the services that you offer to their current accountant, at what point do you advise people it's time to change accountants?
Um, Look, if you want a cheap form filling accountant that will just take your numbers at year end, plug them into the tax return, submit it to the tax office, and are finished in their obligation, our firm isn't the right firm to be working with. If you want to be proactively spoken to when we see any issues in the work that we undertake, if you want advance notice of tax obligations, estimated tax bills before the bills happen so you can plan your cash flow accordingly, or if you want advice as to how to best run the balance of your financial year out and where you can improve things to make sure your tax liabilities are optimized, then it's time to come and talk with us.
Now, finally, if I do decide it's time to change, every time I've thought about changing accountants, it just seems so complicated. There's so many things involved. I mean, it's hard enough just running the software the accounting software that most people have in a business. What are the steps that people need to change, and what steps can they take to get in contact with you if they decide that change is warranted?
Honestly, changing accountants, people perceive that to be a difficult process. Honestly, we manage that change process for you. We've got an ethical responsibility to communicate with your existing accountant that we've been approached by you and that we have been asked to take over going forward. We handle that communication and then we extract the software access, all the working papers that they have historically about your affairs, um, copies of tax returns, copies of accounts, copies of any legal documents that are needed to back up what is in the numbers, and we manage that. We give you the opportunity, if you've had a long-term relationship with that accountant, to give them a call and as a courtesy and tell them that you've made a decision to move on. And most people want to do that, but a lot of people don't like conflict. And if you don't want to have conflict, we'll manage the whole process without your involvement. Um, when you want to make a change to another accounting firm, hyaccounting.com.au is, we have a chat bot on there that you can set meetings from our website to get in contact with us. We would want to get access to your Xero file for an initial meeting so we can do analysis of your numbers and work out where we see any particular issues, highlight the good things, the bad things, the things that you need to address, just so you're aware of where we're coming from and the quality of things that we're looking at. And from that point, we'll um, quote you up a cost upfront before you make any decisions as to what the monthly subscription would be to work with us going forward.
Well, there you have it. If it's time for you to change accountants, it's obvious that HY Accounting can help you. And if you'd like further details, please go to their website, which is on the screen, hyaccounting.com.au.